Check, check, check. Did you? Oh my God. I mean, I just, I'm not gonna go over this. Like I felt. Oh, I feel good.
Good to see you. Your boot is off. Well, looking good.
Well, I was using a walker when I saw you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It was 4.5 months in walker.
Oh, wow. You look good.
Good to see you.
And you're moving right along. Nine. Okay. We okay?
That's gonna take 1 second to raise the seat. Good, yeah. That's all.
It is 6:01 or 6:02 now, and I'd like to call the regular Tuesday meeting of July 8th of the Lake Worth Beach Community Redevelopment Agency to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Daniel Morgan.
Here.
Mr. Drew Bartlett.
Here.
Miss Leah Furch.
Here.
Miss Caroline Shamshi Basha.
Here.
Miss Donna Kerner.
Here.
And Chair Blockson.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or reordering of the agenda? Okay. At this time, we will have public comment on non-agenda items. If you'd like to make a public comment, please step to the podium. And please give your name and address.
Jonathan Dovery, before they got. By the way, is everyone cleaning this for COVID? Because everyone's coming up and speaking directly on it. It's nice to see the new phone though. Good morning, board. How much time does each person get, each speaker?
Your name again, you got 3.
Jonathan Dovery, 824 Lake Ave. Sorry, I got a lung removed. Ugh. Yeah. I noticed every speaker is not getting the same amount of time, especially when it is not what Mayor Bresch is campaigning for. We've studied these videos, studied them. They're on YouTube. And every month, every speaker is allowed different amounts, right? And all the ones not catering to her campaign, she is shutting down. We have a stroke victim out there, an amputee. She's not doing anything. We have constant senior citizens at risk. She's not doing anything. The nonprofits, the NGOs, non-governmental organizations have had enough. We are calling for help. We have loads of people out here and we can get them home. We can get them their ID at the DMV. We can coordinate a motel so they can get a shower and an airplane ticket. We can do that instantly through cooperation and communication. But people are writing everyone off. We don't want to move the homeless. We want to get them home. And there's a lot of them that will and have a place to go. Here's the procedure. You have to have a DMV license or ID card. You have to have someone that can receive you. PBSO Hit Squad, Homeless Intervention Team, can verify you, bring you to the DMV, get your ID card. They have motel vouchers, which can get you a shower and get you on a plane ticket first thing next day. There's already procedures in place for this. There's already programs, county, that support this. We can coordinate it. We need them to get empowered. We need a 12-seater van, Sprinter van, not for us, for PBSO Hit Squad. Instead of bringing one person at a time to the DMV, we need multiple. You want to clear the streets? Let's clear them and get these people home. If they have anywhere that can receive them, does not have to be a family member, they can get a ticket home. So we need to figure out what the procedure is. Nobody has accountability for how many motel vouchers we have. Nobody has accountability for how many people are being sent home on a monthly basis. Nobody has any accountability for the amputees. We reached out to the Amputee Coalition. You have an older woman, one leg, side of the side ramp, stroked out. Nobody calls. We could have gotten her home then, but the Hit Squad did not have the resource given to them the voucher. So we have no accountability, nobody across the board. Everyone's complaining about homeless. We want to clear them out and get them home. And you guys have the resources, but nobody's holding accountability because of political and fear and whatever it may be. You guys have a lot of stuff on your hands, and there's a lot of players that you guys have to cross coordinate with. But it's simple. There's a program that exists. PBSO has that program. NGOs coordinate for them, not with them, for them. There's only a few of them. We don't want to overwhelm them, but nothing that's being asked is unreasonable. Thank you, ma'am. Comments?
No comments.
I'm asking. Comments, Mayor? Or
We are not making comments.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
David Tolson. What's your position? I'm an attorney.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
For the county?
No, for the CRA.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Do we have any more public comments on non-agenda items? And please review the minutes from June 10th. And after you review, I'd like a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the June 10th minutes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Can we have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I'll move to approve consent.
One more CRA, completely separate.
I'll second the consent agenda.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We are now to the action agenda and the CRA draft budget.
Good evening. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So the plan was, for me to go through kind of the highlights of the proposed budget. And then also go through the capital, since that one does have a lot of line items on it, as well as a lot of, expenses and revenues. So I will go through it. If you have any questions, you want to stop me at any time, please feel free to do that. This year, it was kind of it was interesting to try to figure out how to fund all the things that we have promised, fund all the things that we usually do, and also make sure that we have money for new projects as well. So we put together this budget. Obviously, there's not like extra money sitting around, but certainly if you wanted to move things around, we're certainly open to that. This is your budget. So one of the reasons, we have a lot of obligations. We have Madison Terrace phases 1 and 2, Pinnacle, Lake Worth Station, W Moda, and Gulfstream. So all of those kind of factor into especially the programs and the major programs that we have, because we do have obligations that we're carrying over from previous years. So I'm going to start with the revenues. The revenues are made up obviously of city and county taxes, donations, the payment to Circuit from the city until March, I believe, of next year. That's been budgeted. Grant money, fund balance, and obligations. And the obligation line is pretty heavy, as it usually is. We have rollover items for economic development, for grants, and most of all for housing. In the expense and administration, we were able to reduce costs overall because we do have the pro housing grant, and some of the pro housing grant can be used for administration. So that line item lowered somewhat, although some of the other ones like deferred compensation and life and health increased just slightly. Professional services and everything else at administration pretty much, bless you, stayed the same. We consolidated, we had 3 separate line items. We had operating expenses, operating supplies, and regular supplies, and we consolidated all of that into one. We lowered some of the programs that we had at higher levels in previous years, such as promotional activity, because we do plan on moving forward with the marketing firm that was, we had a a meeting a couple weeks ago with our committee, and we have chosen, or we would like to choose one of the marketing firms that came forward. So we will be bringing that back to you next month. So overall, the expenses under administration have come down slightly. Under programs, we have professional services. That's for finance and auditing that we do. Banners and decorations came down a little bit again because we probably will be hiring a marketing firm, and we want to start fresh on all of our marketing materials. The new line item is called media marketing, and that would be for our marketing campaign next year going forward. We also increased neighborhood housing programs, and this is due to the pro housing grant. We have $16,000 in policy reform, $100,000 in affordable housing to help nonprofits, and over $16,000 in home buyer subsidies to give because of that grant. And then downtown programs and local transportation obviously is Circuit with the 3% extension we have budgeted for next year. And then from March, we're in the when the contract is up until the end of our fiscal year. Other major programs, we have economic development. This includes the Gulf Stream, WMOTA, and we have a separate $150,000 for new projects. We have economic development rollover. And that is for Madison Terrace, for us to provide the local match for that. Under housing, we have $640,000. This is specifically for the Pinnacle, which is the affordable housing project that Live Local that might be done on 6th and Dixie. Including in the housing rollover, we have Madison Terrace for $640,000. We have Inhabit for another $100,000, which is the project we will be discussing later. Commercial grant program, we were able to budget just a little bit more for that this year than we have in previous years. So we budgeted that at $500,000. The rollover is still at $419,660 because we have a number of, I believe, 6 grants that, although we have awarded them, they have not been used yet. So we will give them all extensions on that. For the tax increment rebate, that decreased, as I explained last month in the revenue report. Both the Mid and the Bohemian now have more affordable units than they did originally, so they were able to get to pay lower taxes because of the property appraiser. Transfer to city, this is $50,000 that the city has asked us for to help join in on the lighting of the downtown in the area for the holidays, and also power washing of the downtown, which I believe we paid and just did maybe like last month. Keep it clean. Projects grants, we have transfer to capital project, housing and infrastructure. $2.5 million. This includes some of the Mamahuda buy downs for the units at WMOTA. Some money that we're putting away for the garage. So when it is built, we do have money to pay the loan back. City streets, we weren't able to do $600,000 this year, but we were able to do $400,000 to try to attack some of the side streets again on the western side. And also the $200,000 grant that we awarded to Lakeward Station, and that's going to be affordable and workforce housing. Is it me?
Yes.
So buildings acquisitions overall went down substantially with the hope that a lot of the properties that we're holding on to now, whether they're in the downtown or in the neighborhoods, will be going to our nonprofit partners or WMOTA. So we would be spending much less on property management and demolition and dispositions. Lula program, we also made some significant cuts there, not really because we wanted to, but because there are certain things that we can and cannot pay for, being the CRA with a lot of the information that's coming out of the state. So we've pulled that back and have to really rely more on donations and grants for us to fund Lula. And debt service, we have our 595 that we budget every year. So our total budget this year, including the pro housing grant, looks really big at $9.3 million. Any questions? No. I'm going to jump to the capital budget, which is Exhibit A in your backup. So here, you will see the transfer from the CRA, which I discussed earlier, which goes to part of the garage, part of the buy down for Wamota, for streets, for Lake Worth Station. We have a transfer from the city. Some of that is still money we have from ARPA, and some of that is for circuit. We have grant revenue federal, $4.9 million. 4.2 of that is the pro housing grant. And then we used what we have left in designated fund balance of 875 to bring the total to 8.6. So to break that down even more, the pro planning grant that we are sharing with Riviera Beach is specifically for policy reform, for infrastructure, for affordable housing projects, for home buyer programs, and to help nonprofits close some of the gaps in their costs. So we have grant expenses at 2.4 million. Obviously, we're not going to spend all of that next year. We have, I believe, 4 years to spend all the grant money. The Riviera Beach portion of that is $2 million, and that's on a reimbursement basis. We have downtown improvements of 1.8, and we've budgeted some of the garage money. So when and if the garage is done, we have money already kind of squirreled away. So in order for us to make those payments, that would be due. Facilities, we have at 75, and that is specifically for Hatch. We and the city are having a number of issues with the building. We have a lot of leaks. It's just an older building, and it's probably some new infrastructure needs to be put on that building. Facilities, we have at infrastructure. We have at $400,000. Again, that is for hopefully to reduce some of the streets over in the western side here. And finally, we have housing programs, which has $1.9 million in it. And that is to do with the Wamota buy down and Lake Worth Station and some of the other smaller projects that we have. We do have debt service. The debt service has been the same for the last several years. We pay off our debt in 2027. There is a good possibility that we move forward with the garage, that we will have a new debt service, and we'll have to amend this. But we won't know that until later this year when Wamota and the garage goes to the city commission for their review and possible approval. And that is all I have. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
So I remember the discussion on the Wamota buy down for making some affordable units, I think 8.
8, yes.
So, and that's good for 10 years,
15.
15 years. Were we looking at using grant funding for that, or was that?
Some, but we do have to put in TIF because the community project funding that we applied for from Frankel did not come through. We did reapply this year. So if it comes through, then we won't have to use the TIF and we can use the grant money. But just in case, I budgeted TIF money.
Okay, when will we know whether it comes through?
We won't know until Congress passes their budget next year.
Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, how, I know this is a sensitive conversation, right, about affordable housing and everything, but where's that commitment locked in? Is it in the development agreement or?
For Wamota? Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And then what's the next step on that?
We are currently working on the restrictive covenant that needs to go with the packet that goes to the city for their approval in next month for 2 hearings.
Okay.
And then we wait until they get their entitlements.
Gotcha.
And then kind of probably redo the schedule after that. So it would be more than likely sometime next year.
So there will be an amendment to the development agreement at some point.
Probably for time. if
for
needed.
time.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions? At this time, we're looking for an emotion to approve the board or to not approve it. Go ahead.
My only comment is you're going to, this is just a draft. So
Right.
this will come back to you in September. So, if you want to make a motion to support the draft budget or
Without changes.
without any changes, that would be appropriate, knowing that it'll come back in September. Thank you.
So we're actually approving the budget amendments? Or
No,
are we
you-
just approving
You're saying that you're okay with the draft of the next year's budget,
okay.
unless you'd like to make
I'm gonna,
changes.
I'm gonna go for it. All right, so here's the first crack. So this is motion to approve the draft CRA 2025-2026 budget, understanding that it will come back to us in September for final approval.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Need to have public comment on this as well. Okay. It is on.
Oh, there you go.
There, okay. I'm sorry. If anyone would like to make a public comment regarding this issue, please come to the dais.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. As you know, we did board appointments not that long ago, and I want to say thank you all for your service. For those who didn't apply to stay on the board, I thank you because I know what it's like to be a volunteer in this city, a volunteer extraordinaire. So I just want to say thank you for your service. Second of all, on this budget, I also want to say thank you to the staff and to Joan and her team because you guys do miracles with your budget every year and you go after every grant that's possible and you don't give up. And as somebody who loves this city as much as I do, I truly appreciate everything that you do for our city and every penny that you bring in that brings in more investment and brings more homeowners and more businesses. So thank you for all you do. For those of you who don't know me, look up Google. No, I'm just kidding. Sarah Maliga, 408 South East Street.
There's anyone else for public comment? No? Okay. The discussion, would you have any thoughts for discussion or can we move on to the? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays? We are making a vote on your motion.
Yeah, okay. So what's the second?
We did.
Oh, I must have been.
We did everything.
Got it.
So we just need a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Next thing on our action agenda is the development agreement amendment for Inhabit Properties, assignment and extensions. Okay. I guess this has been weighing on me since I got the packet. And weighing very heavily. And I read it, I thought about it, and we have done so many extensions. Before we have a motion, can we ask the attorney to please clarify where we are and what our options are so that all board members are moving forward with the discussion on the same page?
All right, turned it off. Good evening, David Tolson, CRA attorney. Good to see everyone. So let's see, so as you know, we've been through this many times. Joan and I had discussions with Inhabit's representatives, and I believe Mr. Carey is here this evening to answer any questions from his side. And they came to us in our discussions with, timing issues with respect to phase 3 specifically, which we haven't closed on yet. And that closing was supposed to be done earlier this year, but due to several issues associated with phase 1 and phase 2 and whatever permit issues there were, they just haven't gotten their permit yet for phase 3. So they came up with, through discussions, that maybe there's an idea where they can sell or transfer, convey, assign this project to a new developer who can complete the entire project, because they're still waiting for their permits for phase 3. And so, we said, well, if that's something you want to propose, we'll present that to the board. And that's what they've done. And that's one of the items that's here for you tonight, is the fact that we do have a letter from an attorney, Mr. Gooten, who has advised the CRA that they have identified a buyer for all 3 phases of the development. And it's anticipated that the closing of that conveyance would happen at the time that the permits for phase 3 would be issued. Right now, they have their permits for phase 1 and phase 2. It's my understanding that they are under construction, and whatever that entails. I personally haven't gone out there and inspected it, but it's my understanding it's under construction. Now, currently, based upon the last approved documents, phase 1 is supposed to be completed by October 28th of this year. That's 365 days from the date that we closed on the sale of phase 1, which was October 28th, 2024. So phase 1 is currently supposed to have a certificate of occupancy by October 28th, 2025. Phase 2, which closed on December 24th, 2024, is supposed to have a certificate of occupancy by December 24th, 2025. And, for one reason or another, it's pretty clear they're not going to probably meet those dates. I know one of the issues had to do with the water line. The water line was found to be a lot closer to the surface, and worked with the city to get it done. And it seems like that's all been worked out. So in light of that, and in light of everything else that's going on, we said, well, we can bring to the board an amendment to the development agreement that would provide for basically a 6-month extension for phase 1 and phase 2. So based upon the amendment that's in your packet, the completion date for phase 1 would be extended till March 2026. And the completion date and certificate of occupancy for phase 2 would be June of 2026. In addition to that, assuming they get the permits for phase 3 at the end of October, phase 3 would be 365 days after the closing date for the property included in phase 3. And based upon their anticipated permit, I think they're saying like the end of October. So closing would hopefully happen sometime in November. And then the new developer would come in, would acquire all the property, would, in my understanding, use the same contractor to complete the development. And if all goes according to plan, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 would all be completed, let's say November 2026. Yeah, 2026. So that's the current timeline and timeframe that we're dealing with. And that's what's before you tonight, is to approve an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement that would extend the closing on phase 3, which is right now still open, till 30 days after they get their permits from phase 3, and to extend the completion dates for all 3 phases to March 2026, June 2026, and I'm assuming the end of November 2026. And in addition to that, you're being asked to consent to the assignment to the new developer, whose principal is Bhavin Shah, who the CRA knows well. And Mr. Shah has agreed, to my understanding, I haven't seen the document, but everything that the attorney has told me is that he has agreed to take over this project pending the issuance of the permits for phase 3. And that's where we are. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll just start. I mean, maybe the obvious here, but Mr. Shaw, Bhavin is not around, right? Is really busy with other development projects, and I think he has lots going on. So I'm just wondering what I'm not being an naysayer, but just inquisitive. What's the likelihood that he and SOZ will be able to complete this project that's been ongoing in various stages since late 2019? I mean, it seems like kind of a cursed project. And like, what other tragedy or tragedies are gonna befall it? That's rhetorical
Okay.
questions, I know.
Well, and I'm just going to editorialize a little. Sometimes, good things come to those who wait, right? So,
Third time's a charm? Or-
well, no, we're going on fifth or sixth,
Sixth,
so I'm
yeah.
not going to say that. But, it's my understanding that the contractor who's currently on site, Stewart and Shelby, is going to remain on site. So there isn't this issue with swapping out contractors. So, and Stewart and Shelby is a known commodity to the CRA, having worked with the CRA and done other development in town. So I think that is a good sign. Basically, we're going to know by the end of October if these permits are issued. If the permits aren't issued, then we can come back to you and say, okay, this ain't working. So basically what we're asking for right now, ain't is a legal term. Basically what the developer is asking for, we're not asking for it, but what the developer is asking for is let's get to November with respect to the permits for phase 3. We're going to continue to work on phase 1 and 2. And assuming everything goes as they've explained to us it goes, then we'll be able to close on phase 3. Mr. Shaw will come in as the owner, whatever form that entity is, and the current contractor will continue to construct the 3 phases. And at the end of the day, a year from then, you'll have 3 completed phases. If that doesn't happen, then we look at what do we do with just phase 1, phase 2, which are under construction, if they're going to complete those or not. And then do we unwind the project? Do we let it sit there? Do we work with them to find another buyer? There are a lot of permutations and possibilities, but based upon my review, if you approve everything tonight, the outcome is that phase 1 and phase 2 are going to continue. And then the closing of phase 3 would likely take place in November of this year with a new owner.
Any questions?
So just thinking about the process we used on this agreement. I'm just thinking about procurement law. So we did a solicitation on these properties, chose Inhabit, right? It's Inhabit,
Right.
chose Inhabit. And and that was a competitive process. So how can that entity that went through the competitive process then sell to someone who didn't go to the competitive process? I'm just trying to think
Well,
if am I thinking about it right or not?
Well, they own the property that is subject to phase 1 and phase 2, and they have the right to purchase phase 3. So what they're doing is
Sorry.
Inhabit.
Okay.
Inhabit owns phase 1 and phase 2. They own the dirt. And they have the contractual right at this point in time to acquire the property to phase 3. So
After having gone through the process.
after having gone through the
Let's
process,
select them.
right? And
Would they still buy that property?
can they still?
Would they still buy it or would someone else? Buy
No,
it?
it would be Mr. Shaw's entity. They would convey phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 to Mr. Shaw's entity if the permits are issued in October. So it'd be a transaction where they would be.
Did Mr. Shaw apply for these properties? The first.
Not my understanding. No.
Okay.
No. And from a procurement perspective, I don't see an issue because under the agreements, they have the right to assign subject to the CRA's approval.
I see. Okay.
Right.
So are they assigning? What's the
They're
difference
going-
between assigning and selling?
They're going to be assigning their rights, duties, obligations under the various land use restriction agreements that they have. But at the same time, they're going to be selling the dirt, the land. They're going to be signing a warranty deed to Mr. Shaw's entity. And the CRA will convey the property to Mr. Shaw's entity that's included in phase 3. So you're going to have property being conveyed from Inhabit to Mr. Shaw's entity, and the CRA is still holding on to the land in phase 3 because they haven't gotten their permits. When they get their permits, and the CRA will convey the property in phase 3 to Mr. Shah's entity as well, because they will be assigning their rights under that contract to Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah's entity will have the right to acquire that property.
So then we hold Mr. Shaw accountable, or do we still hold Inhabit accountable?
No, it's going to be a full release of Inhabit at closing. And we will look only to Mr. Shah's entity. And right now, you are consenting to giving preliminary consent to the assignment, giving preliminary consent, or not giving consent to the extensions. There will be other documents that will have to come where you'll get your formal approval with respect to the conveyance of the property from the CRA to Mr. Shah's entity.
Just another quick question. Given that structure that you just laid out, David, is there any risk to the CRA or the city?
I don't see it as any more risk than we're in today. You know, I see it as, and I can let Mr. Carey talk to Inhabit's position and where they are with respect to the development. But right now, you have phase 1 and phase 2, which are under construction. You have phase 3, which my understanding is under application for permits. So the idea is that those permits are going to get issued later this year. So whether it's Mr. Shah's entity or Inhabit coming forward and taking those permits and building it from the CRA's perspective, I don't think it matters. We're not spending any more money. It's just a matter of who can get the project done.
We have already, I'm sorry, did anyone else have any questions?
Go for it.
We have already been doing this dance since 2019. And we're under our 5th or 6th amendment.
Mhm.
I have lost all faith in Inhabit trying to make this project go forward. And if we're budgeting $100,000 in our budget next year for Inhabit, we're waiting on things that we had been promised was going to close out in October of 25 and December 25, which we know it's not going to happen. I am reluctant to say, yes, let's just go ahead and sign another agreement, give them another extension. Is there a way that we could do our business with Inhabit for phase 1 and phase 2, and then find a different buyer for phase 3? Not necessarily, and I know that you're saying that's probably the same thing with Bobbin, but my concern about Bobbin is you're right. He has a lot on his plate. And if we agree to Inhabit for phase 1 and phase 2, and we're done with them, is that, am I understanding it correctly?
Well, I believe, and Joan can probably talk this better than me as far as the units, the affordable units, and how those are allocated across all 3 phases. So if you only do phase 1 and phase 2, then what does that mean for those additional affordable units that were going to be part of phase 3? Yes, we can then go ahead and try and market the property in phase 3 and see if another developer comes in with those same conditions. But the bigger question is, what happens to phase 1 and phase 2 if they're separated from the project, from phase 3? And I don't know what Inhabit's intentions are. I would hope that they would still want to complete phase 1 and phase 2 without phase 3, but I can't speak to that.
Well, are they contractually obligated to complete phase 1 and phase 2, regardless of what
Yes.
happens to phase 3?
They are.
And so is that thought in jeopardy? Do you think that's not going to happen?
I can't, yeah.
Please come and we can ask him if you.
Yeah.
You know, I
mean, everything I've heard is their full intentions are to complete phase 1 and phase 2. And that the way to get phase 3 completed is to wrap them all up together and convey them to a new developer.
Come on in.
Please correct anything that is stated. You're all right.
Tim Carey, Inhabit Property Group. I'm sorry to say I'm here again, but the whole intent of this is for you to get me out of your hair. you guys don't want anything to do with Inhabit at this point. I completely understand. No one is more ashamed and disappointed that this project didn't come to fruition than me. I've been up here way too much. I recognize that. But I think this is the best way to get this project completed. In terms of bifurcating it into two different projects, I don't know how the economics work anymore. This project was tight to begin with because you couldn't scale because you only had 29 units. On top of that, you had many of them which are affordable, all of which was fine. The numbers were working if you could get 29 because many of them were townhomes, so the rents were higher naturally because they were townhomes. If you're going to bifurcate that and make it into two projects, I'm telling you right now, you could work any kind of pro forma you want. Those rents are going to be magic and they're not really going to be realistic. That's my initial thought. I don't know that because I haven't looked at the pro forma, but I would find it very difficult. The intent here is for us to leave you guys alone once and for all. That's all that's going on here. In regards to the project where it is now, the steel is being laid down in the slab. You can go over there later tonight or tomorrow, whenever you feel like it. Slab is already down. We've got inspections tomorrow and Friday. Concrete's being poured Friday to finalize the slab. So phase 1 is full go. Phase 2, the delay that happened, we were full go back in November, December. Everything was getting paid. We were under construction. And then, as David mentioned, we had a water main issue. It's not even a full alleyway, as you may recall from phase 3. Phase 3 is a horseshoe. There is no alleyway there. But once you go west throughout the rest of the project, there is an abandoned alleyway. But that doesn't mean that it's a that the full scale of the alley is wide enough for instance, 2 cars. You can't get 2 cars. It's not wide enough. So what we recognized when we first saw the property was we saw pipes coming out of the ground, and our assumption was no one's using those pipes that are above ground. Cars come back here, just not reasonable. Those pipes were under use. So what we recognized were that the water meters in some instances were above ground, just so you know, they're supposed to be 36 inches minimum below ground. Some of them were above, some of them were 3 inches just below the ground. So with that, that's why construction had to stop. We had discussions with the city, we went back and forth, and very gracefully the city agreed that they needed to address that. My understanding is that 2 p.m. tomorrow, I believe the water and sewer, along with the folks who are going to complete that work, are meeting to figure out how they're going to start, when they're going to start. The only timeline we've been given is a very vague timeline of the water meters will be completed by end of summer. Those water meters are critical to construction, obviously, to get water to the property and to set up all the water meters. But that was the delay back in December, and obviously that messed up with the timeline, and I can understand why you guys would be frustrated with that. We've moved past that now, and we are under construction at phase 1, coming up on phase 2. In regards to phase 3, we're submitting for permits this week. I just received late last night and early this morning the full architectural set. So that's all getting submitted. We've already had preliminary meetings with the city regarding how we're going to submit and what the timeline would be. William Waters and Barry Schultz have both assured us that their review will be rather quick, mostly because, as I've mentioned to you guys before, phases 1, phases 2, and 3 all have virtually the same units with the exception of the 3-story building. So they think their review will be quick. They think they can get it back much faster than, say, anything else they've done because they know the units and they're aware of what's needed and what's not. As you can imagine, on top of that, all the changes or comments we've received before have been incorporated into our 3rd submission here. In regards to the first 2 phases, we did meet those deadlines. It was the water meters that seemed to really stall us up. I tell you, I understand why you'd be skeptical, Ms. Blockson. I truly do. But the idea is for us to leave you alone once and for all, because I agree it's taken too long. In regards to Mr. Shaw, I can tell you that he's committed to this project. He wouldn't be engaged at this level and trying to transfer ownership over here if he wasn't serious. I know he's done a lot of great work here in Lake Worth. I know he's got a lot of projects. I can understand your concern, but I know he's committed, and I think he's got a lot on tap in Lake Worth that's exciting. And I don't think there's any reason to doubt that this project can't be just as exciting. I think the vision of what this was, you guys always agreed with. I can cite, and I know, I don't even have to go back and watch the videos or cite the record. You guys have always voted unanimously for this. So it seems to me that the project is right. For whatever reason, and there's lots of problems on my end, as I've admitted before, and other problems that were outside of the project, and I'm not citing the city, I'm saying external factors like the pandemic and the economy and all that nonsense I've shown you before. But the project has always been right. And you guys have proven that by voting unanimously time and time again. I don't know how many votes we've had, maybe Joan knows offhand, but it's always been unanimous. This is just a move to make sure that this project gets done based on the work that's already been done at phase 1 and is set up for the remaining 2 phases. I can answer any other questions you might have.
So I guess I'm trying to understand why. I know you don't want to come up here anymore on phase 3. Maybe Bob and Shaw would have to, but why bring him in? Why not just finish it?
It was more an effort of, I've got partners who you guys have never seen before. I think one is 76, one is 78, and they've tapped out. And
Financial.
it's financial. And I think they said, in particular, I can tell you that one of them has said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want nothing to do with this. And the other gentleman is even older. I think he might have a little more vigor in him, but
So you need another, it's a financial thing. You need another.
yeah. And Bobbin is, we set up meetings and he said, I'm interested. And, he was in a better position than either of my partners.
Gotcha. So you're going to bring in, his idea is really purely financial, but what about the management of the construction? Where is that going to lie?
That's, as David mentioned, that's where nothing changes. We've got Chuck Halberg, who's done multiple projects with Joan in the CRA. He's very dependable, very reputable. They're based down in Delray Beach, but they do a lot of affordable housing as far north as Port St. Lucie. They've done the community center. They just did for Joan over here, along with the, I don't know if it was Rainbow Coalition, but the townhomes over on A Street, I think. So they've done work here, and they did Davis Landings just west of the city. They do a lot of affordable housing. They're very dependable. They know how to get this stuff done. They've been all over it. And I think they've been very helpful actually in trying to mitigate the water main issue and trying to get stuff done in a fast manner. They've set out a timeline that I think makes sense. I know for a fact that they might get it done faster. They never like to say that because obviously they don't want to commit to something and then have people yelling and screaming at them. But I know what their timeline is. I'm comfortable with it. And they, if things continue to go the way they are, hopefully it'll be done faster.
So it sounds like, so Bobbin's coming in to finance phase 3 essentially, and his collateral or whatever is getting assignment of the project itself. So he gets the return on investment on phase 3. There's probably more details to it. I'm just trying to simplify it from my own head.
Yeah, he takes over the entire project.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where nothing changes.
So he could change contractors if he wanted to bring in Vanilla Ice.
I have not heard that. No, he had, gosh, I think 3 meetings with Chuck over at Stewart and Shelby. So I know he's very comfortable with him. That has never been discussed. So I can't say that that's the plan at all. And I can't speak to that. No, I don't think he would have had those meetings if something didn't line up.
And he's not online or anything, right?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think he's in the state actually right now.
Anyone else have any questions? I'd like to ask the board's indulgence that I know that we have not had a motion and we haven't had a second on this issue, but I would be interested in hearing from public comment before we make that motion. Would you mind if we went to public comment at this time? Because I think we need as many opinions as we can get before we make a decision on this one.
I appreciate it.
If there's anyone who'd like to make public comment, please step up.
Do the plank walk. Good evening. Now I come before you as Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga, your CRA liaison. And a couple of things. So first, I've always supported Tim's project. Know his partner Nestor, who was involved before. Great guy, Lake Worth Beach resident. I know Chuck from Stewart and Shelby. He actually built my house as part of the NSP2 program. I know he does great work. So those aren't the 2 issues I have. What I have as somebody who has to oversee public land is, what is the sale price? That hasn't been disclosed. Is there money being made on public land that has been being kicked down the road from 2019 to today? And what was that appreciation look like? That's my number one concern. How much money is being made on this? Now, I've heard that over $800,000 has been spent on redesigns. Well, part of that redesign had nothing to do with the city or the CRA. That was of their own record that they did. So number one, I would want to see that contract on what are they really paying for it. And number 2, I agree with Drew. There should be something in writing saying that the contractor stays the contractor for phase 3 to bring it to fruition. I think that there's been too many hands in the pot on this process with this program. I think it's going to be great when it comes online, but so are other projects that Mr. Bobbin's involved in. And he does have his hands full, but I honestly can't see anyone taking land working on it, spending $800,000 and then selling it for a net break even after 6 years of hard work. So because it's public, I think we need to be really, really careful and full disclosure of what that sale is. Because we know that you guys as a board and the city has been working really hard, and the staff of the CRA, for transparency and making sure that everybody in the city sees what's happening with the CRA properties. And I think that that's the number one most important thing. I do not believe that phase 3 should be involved. It should be complete phase 1 and phase 2. You have the permits, you're going, let's get them done. But that's just my opinion. You guys do with it what you want.
Well, here we are. Ramsey McLeod, 24 South C Street. Yes, I have been a firm believer in this project, just like all of you, and we've listened and persevered through all the delays. I did read all the backup documentation. I'm one of those people. I have the same concerns you've spoke of, Ms. Loxon, and the concerns of Commissioner Malega are more detailed financially based of city property than I had thought of. I do love this project. I do like the fact that we would be bringing family housing, much needed family housing, to one of the slumlord dominant areas in our city. And we deserve nice things, and we deserve new things. And those of us who have stood staunchly behind this project are quite frankly very disappointed in the turn of things. However, it seems like someone's come in at the last minute and they want to rescue it. And I'd like to see this project go forward, but I would like to see all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, and the accountability given to the city leaders that need it to know what's happening to our city property. It doesn't appear that we're going to recoup any of the monies that we could have gotten of the value that may have accrued as time has passed. But I do believe in this idea of family housing. I do believe the business plan that they presented is successful, and they've proven that it's successful. For whatever reason, this project just hasn't come to the fruition in the time frame that it was projected to. The fact that it may still come in the matter of 1 year, I think gives you hope that it could become a real reality, and it could be just such a boost for this side of the city. We don't get nice things over here. We rarely get any new projects coming, and basically really nothing except for the Habitat for Humanity houses in the way of housing for our residents. And you're well aware of the overcrowding and too many people living in one house. So I would like to see our faith restored. I'd like to see the documents come forward that Commissioner Malega is looking for. And I think that once you get that settled, it should be able to go forward. And I know Mr. Shaw's hands are full. He has several plates spinning in the air. But if he's willing to take this on and we're keeping the same contractor, it seems like a smooth behind the scenes kind of transition. And I would support your supporting it. Thank you.
Tim, this brings up a new question for me. In the event that your two elderly partners, and I say that gently, are no longer interested, and we don't agree to this proposal,
I
what
don't know.
happens?
I don't know. We'd have to sit down with our attorneys. We'd have to sit down with David and Joan and figure out a solution of some sort. I genuinely don't know. I didn't, as you guys have been talking, obviously I was trying to run through, possible situations, but I don't have the answer tonight. The one thing I just did want to mention from Ms. Malega's comments, I can understand those concerns, and they're valid concerns. No one is making money here. I just want to make that abundantly clear. No one is making any money here. And then the second piece was, I'm sorry, did you? There was the contract. There was one other piece before that. I forget. I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought, but there was one other piece that was in regards to the finances, and I just wanted, Mr. Shaw is not paying for any first iterations. He's a fairly intelligent man. So there's no funny business going on here. Everything's been very upfront as to what the costs have been and how they've been allocated. So there's no issues there, and no one is making money here.
Do we have any additional public comment? At this time, we need a motion.
Madam Chair, if I might.
Mhm.
So there are three items before you. There's the approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Development Agreement, the approval of the Sixth Amendment to the Purchase and Sale Agreement, and the consent to the assignment that are before you. So you should probably have three separate motions all related to the project. Although, I mean, if you wanted to do the amendments in one motion, you probably could, because I think one goes with the other.
Let's see. Let me chase this if you don't mind.
Yeah, I have a question first.
Okay.
Would you all want to do all three of them together, or would you like to do them separately? And would your opinion differ from 1, 2, and 3?
So I think I'm trying to bifurcate the decision a little bit like you're trying to do for us, David. For me, the extension is different than the assignment, right? So if we give us extensions, it's still in habit until the extension date at the end of that time frame. And it sounds like it's a preliminary nod that we're open to it, the assignment. But we don't really have to make that decision until that actually matures with the permits and everything.
Ultimately, the final, assignment document that will be signed will be done at the closing. But I think this preliminary, for lack of a better term, motion to consent to the assignment gives the parties the comfort to move forward and do the due diligence work, to do the document preparation, and continue forward with the permits for phase 3, knowing that they'll be transferred when it's closed in November.
I understand.
Can I just add one thing? I'm sorry to.
That's helpful.
Again, I don't know if, you guys vote a certain way and then I'm going to have to report back, and obviously I'll have different responses from people, but obviously we are paying architects, engineers, everybody. And depending on what happens here, this is not a threat. I'm just making sure we're all aware of what the consequences are of everything that happens. And I understand this is a very complicated issue. So I'm just making sure that everyone is as educated and everyone understands what happens. I would think that whether it's Mr. Shaw or my partners, we immediately have to get on the phone and tell everyone to stop what they're doing, because we don't know what the future is, and we can't, I don't know do we keep building? I don't know what we do. Because I don't know if we've thought through this all. I mean.
No, we brought this tonight with the understanding of where we are today and what we're asking for, with anticipated that if the board chooses to approve these amendments, that the project would in theory continue. And then hopefully, if the other conditions occur in October, that you would then close on phase 3. And at the end of the day, the CRA would get the project that it originally bargained for.
And I assume we're facing a deadline right now, so we have to decide this meeting.
There's no deadline written in stone, but I do know that we have blown way past the date for the conveyance of the property for phase 3. And we, from a legal perspective, we should probably do something about that. So if you choose not to approve these amendments tonight, then we've got to look and see what we're going to do with phase 3.
Can I just add in, from the meeting that we had in Boca with David and with Mr. Weinstein, this is just my understanding. If we do not vote on this tonight in a positive way that moves the project along, they will stop work on phase 1. That's my understanding. I don't know that for sure. I'm not, I'm just saying that they would have to stop anyway, because they really would have to redo all of the numbers and really figure out if it's even worth them finishing up, right? So my understanding is that they told me this in January, and it took a long time for, things to fall into place. They are not finishing this project. They wanted to sell it in January, and it took this long for them to find the buyer and do all the back and forth and negotiating and stuff like that. They don't want to finish this project.
Phase 3 of this project.
I don't know if they want to finish phase 1 or 2 either, to be quite honest.
Who's
That's
they? Inhabit?
Yes.
These guys are out. That's what I was trying to convey. These guys are, they want nothing to do with it. The amount of, you wouldn't believe how much money's been spent. They're out. They're really, you've never seen them before. They're essentially just in the back room, but in the back room calling the shots. I've been the public face, and they are done. They've spent an unbelievable amount of capital, which I completely understand, and I've had a fair amount of that too. So I'm invested. I can't say that, but not like those guys. So they're tired, and they're disappointed and frustrated, just like everyone is in here. But they're in a position where they just can't keep going on.
So then my next question would be, to David, if you don't mind, would be, what happens if we send them?
Then we would need to analyze the documents. We probably have to definitely try and meet with Mr. Carey and his partners to see how the property could be then conveyed back to the CRA. Under the agreements, it is provided for, but that could cost money, definitely cost time, and jeopardize the vision that was approved originally with the project. So it could.
So when your investors said we're out, you spent all this time trying to find another investor to salvage this process, essentially.
Correct. And to Joan's point, it did take longer than we suspected from our side.
Sure.
We thought it was going to be done much faster. I'm sure Mr. Tolsis did as well. For whatever reason, there were some hiccups, and we battled through those. But I've been here so often, and I feel so bad even saying this. I'm just trying to be honest and forthright with you guys, as I always have been. But I really do feel like we've started on phase 1. I'm submitting for phase 3 this week. I'm trying to keep this ship afloat, and I'm trying to keep it moving. But yeah, there's a lot at stake, and I understand you guys have to do what's right by the public. That's not lost on me, but I really do see that the best option is Mr. Shaw, and just pushing forward with what we've got here with guys on the job site working every day. That's just my opinion, though.
Any opinions on the contractor that they have on site?
Student Shelby's excellent. We worked with them since 2010. They built all of Adopted Families affordable housing. They've built some for the Community Land Trust. They built out Hatch. They built 1213 Path to College. So yeah, they're really good guys. People. Any other comments?
You lead to go.
Oh.
I'm done.
So I guess I'm trying to look at what's the worst that happens if we say yes tonight, nobody delivers. We lose, and I'm not minimizing losing a couple of months, but we lose a couple of months, right? And then we're back to the same place where we're looking for some new something with this project. Whereas if we say no tonight and everything stops, then we really are starting all over and losing even more time than we would lose with the first option. Is that?
Yes, you're exactly right.
That's
It's
the
kind of
decision
like,
every time.
yeah. But I think, because of the history, it's harder because now you're putting faith in that this is going to happen, and nothing has happened yet in the way that we thought it would or in the time that it would. So I can just, it's totally up to the board and how you want to decide. I just want everybody to know that, construction is not for babies. It's extremely difficult. I know everybody in the city, and there'll be lots of planners that tell you incremental development are the way to go, but with the old infrastructure that we have in this city and the small lots that we have and the issues that sometimes can't even be resolved, it's more expensive to build here than it is anywhere else. And you're not going to get the rents that you get in other places either. So projects you'll see, and I'm sure you've seen them, like Bohemian up, Mid up, Deco Green up, those all go really well. With the smaller projects, we have problems with all of them. We even have problems now with habitat homes. So, there's a definite gap there. And although it's something that, we all would like to see incremental development and small development and back small developers versus big developers, sometimes it just doesn't work out like that.
It works in the Midwest where you can, no, I mean, seriously, like I've been trying to figure out like why it doesn't work, and it's the cost to build down here. And then with a rent ceiling, whereas in the Midwest, rents are actually going up and you can build with stick, which is cheaper. It's just cheaper to build and you get rents. And that's what we're facing here. So, and I think I've mentioned this before. Again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. I'm just trying to make sure we know what we're discussing here tonight.
And I want to thank you all for allowing this extra time and this extra discussion because it is such a major decision for all of us. And we've been here through so many discussions and so many votes. And I started tonight with like, I'm done. I'm like the two old guys. You know, I'm an old lady too, and I'm like done with this. However, I am looking for a motion. Just make a motion and we'll vote.
So I,
Hmm?
yeah, so
However you want to do that.
so this is what I want to do, so help me out, right? And it's hard to make a motion and so I want to give them the extensions. I do want to know before the assignment that we're going to keep the same contractor, right? And that Bobbin is probably here and it's in the documents and everything that he's committed to the same contractor and process because that's our hope, it feels like. And then it sounds like we can make another decision to say, now let's not do the assignment at that point. But my belief is that, and I know they haven't run the numbers or anything, but in something like this, the only way the numbers work if it's all together, right? And what I would think is if we break off phase 3, it all falls apart. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen.
And I'm sorry, one last point. The majority of the units are in phase 3. So if you break it off, phase 1 and 2 will not work alone.
That's what I figured.
Right.
Right. So, so I want to make a motion to grant the time extensions for phase 1, 2, and 3 as proposed in the memo. And so I'll make that motion by itself and then make another motion on the assignment. Can that work?
Yeah, so the motion is to approve the Fourth Amendment to the development agreement and the Sixth Amendment to the purchase and sale agreement. And authorize the chair, vice chair, executive director to sign those documents.
And that the purpose of those documents is to
Provide for the
provide
time
time
extensions.
extensions.
Correct.
Yes. What he said.
Well said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I think it passes unanimously. Aye. Okay,
Leah,
let's
did
do
you
the-
vote? You did. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, all right, the trickier motion. So I want to make a motion to convey support for the assignment to Bob and Shaw. That's all it is, right? It's just a motion to support. It's not a motion to approve. So it's a motion to support.
Or consent to,
Sorry.
motion to consent to the assignment.
So
Not
we
ready
would
for
be
that.
agreeing to the assignment with
Right.
Bobbin.
So I understand we get another opportunity when the permits come to bring it back and we can have that conversation with Bob and on his plans.
Well then. So I think it's just preliminary consent because as Mr. Gooden states in his letter, it's just a formal request to enter into the amendments, the Fourth and Sixth Amendment, and then Inhabit will provide additional information prior to closing as to the identity of the Shaw entity. And should CRA require any additional information in connection with the proceedings of the requests, please contact the other side. So it's just that the CRA is in conceptual agreement with the proposed transaction.
Okay.
And additional documents will come back to you for approval later.
And while I understand that's what it says, I don't necessarily know if Stuart and Shelby's gonna show up for work tomorrow. I mean, not that.
yeah.
Just so we know that that's a possibility.
Why wouldn't they show up for work tomorrow?
They might not show up for work because if we don't give the assignment, then they don't know that the deal has gone through or will go through. And then they're gonna stop because they don't really know what they're gonna do with phases 1 and 2, whether they're gonna continue with them or not.
Okay, I
So
can
what
certainly
else?
make it clear that we're interested in them maintaining Shelby.
Correct. And I was going to recommend that you include that as part of your motion. But in light of the fact that the extensions were granted, all right, that's given them the comfort to now move forward with their negotiations and drafting the documents that are necessary to provide for the continuation of the development. Okay, we can't predict what's going to happen, but everything is pointing towards the fact that the permits for phase 3 are going to be submitted. They're going to be reviewed, hopefully approved. Once those permits are issued, then we'll be set up to close, and CRA will convey the property to Mr. Shah's entity, and Inhabit will convey their interests to Mr. Shah's entity. And we will likely have, prior to that, additional approval from the board with respect to authorizing the execution of whatever documents need to be executed at that time.
Okay,
In the event that we do not vote for the assignment, does that mean that in the event that we do not vote for the assignment, does that mean that Mr. Bobbin will walk? Because he is now taking on an agreement for this risk. And he needs, I want to reassure him. I want him to understand that we're trusting him, you know, but
And he is, based on the letter from the attorney, Mr. Shah's entity and Inhabit have entered into a written agreement on June 10th, 2025, governing the terms and conditions of the sale and assignment. That the CRA approved the sale and assignment prior to the closing, which that will come back to you if you approve the assignment tonight. So they've all committed by signing an agreement to make it happen. So I think from my
Okay.
perspective as an attorney, if an attorney is telling me that two parties have signed an agreement, then, I have to rely on that they're committed to do what's required in that agreement. And that commitment is documented in the amendments that you just approved. But so to the extent you want to.
I heard the word
request-
conceptual approval. Is that,
Yeah.
I can still use that?
Mhm.
Y'all ready for this?
Yeah, because they've already signed, so they're just, so it's not like they're waiting for us to say something. So I think the conceptual approval is the proper term.
All right, I make a motion to conceptually approve the assignment of phase 3 to
Well, the whole project.
the whole project.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to conceptually approve the assignment of the project to the entity represented by Bobbin Shaw, with the board's interest that he maintain the contractor that's currently working on the project to ensure expedited completion.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
I
Do we have any nays? It finally passed unanimously. Again. Now we are on to the executive director's report.
And it will be super speedy in your packet. CRA staff has found some partners and we'll be doing a free treat giveaway downtown at the Cultural Plaza, July 18 from 5 to 8 p.m., as well as free trees for people. There will also be music and vendors and crafts as well. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Board member comments. Daniel, would you like to begin?
Tonight, Madam Chair.
Donna?
It's good to be back, and I'm glad we had a productive meeting, and I'm gonna say hip hip hooray-ish, and good luck that we have good luck with this project and with Mr. Shaw. And I'm looking forward to a completion. I took a lot of notes, and there were things that I didn't say about, like, how do we hold feet to the fire and milestones and reporting back and all of that, but those are usual discussions that we're gonna have, but I'd love to really be able to get those more like hammered out and worked out, and then we have that as another discussion moving forward. Thank you.
No comments, thank you. Every time we do the budget, I'm impressed with the amount of things that you all are able to do and the money you're able to raise. So that's very cool. I think the annual report looks fantastic. I forgot. And I'm always excited to get our calendars of events. Thank you. Sure.
Yep, thank you for the staff, for putting all this together and bringing the hard decisions to us, but well packaged, so that we can really have a good discussion and make that happen. The report looks great. I don't know if there's enough pictures of me in there, but other than that, I'm good. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you to the staff, working on that budget must have been a monumental job. And just to get it all done all in one document, was fantastic. So I know that you did a lot of hard work. I know that we recently had the appointments for the new members coming on, to the CRA. But I want you guys to know that we as a board have done a good job and we've done our due diligence, and I'm proud of the work that we've done. And thank you all for being a part of that. Because while we may not have always agreed, we always agreed to do something. And that's more than a lot of boards can say. So thank you all for your hard work, because I really appreciate it. And that's the end of my comments. And we make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.